Hey there, Chris Klein here with Alma Music Center in San Antonio, Texas, and today we're doing something a little bit different. We're here with San Antonio musician, engineer, producer, champion of the independent music scene, Brant Sankey from Studio E. And we're going to get to know a little more about Brant, his studio, what he's been working on, and we're going to talk about his channel. And then I have some few questions about the industry and technique and things of that nature. So, let's just go ahead and dive right in. Brant, thank you for being here. We greatly appreciate it. And tell us a little about Studio E.
Well, Studio E is going on its 5th year right now. It's just a studio that I created to basically be a spot, hopefully like a destination spot for like San Antonio bands that were just trying to up the bar a little bit. Yeah. Maybe trying to get like more out of their music, maybe get a better product out, and to just kind of have fun and be a spot to elevate the scene here in town. Right,
and that you are doing.
Thank you.
Everybody should know that. We really need to stress that and promote that. The service that you've provided to San Antonio has been absolutely immense, and there's really no way to place any kind of value on that other than it's just fantastic. Now, you've been engineering for longer than 5 years. You originally were working out of your home, and you had like a garage set up in the back of your house. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've been through a handful of spots, from anything from like I think my first spot was a 6x7 shed.
Yeah.
And then we kind of moved and got married, needed a place, it outgrew the house, had a garage built at a previous house that was like a nice, like 16x20 spot,
Right.
And then after that, it was basically just neighbor issues. It was loud.
Yeah.
But then wanted to move it from my place because the traffic started to change home life. And so it's like, okay, we'll go to a different spot. So got this place that we're in right now, and took about 9 months to do some renovation and kind of build it out. And and that's it. Now this for the last 5 years.
Right. And how many projects do you think you've recorded here in the past 5 years? If you could give us like an estimate.
Oh man, I have no round number. Triple digit, I'm sure.
Right.
But I mean, it seems like it's just always. It went from, when you first start recording and you're like, oh, I'm making this album. And
right.
That's it. You're thinking about that album. And then as far back as I can remember right now from being here, it's felt like spinning plates, that it's been, anywhere from like 6 to 15 projects simultaneously.
Right.
At like all times.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, on your channel, you're doing all live streams.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, you probably, you've recorded 80% of the independent bands in San Antonio. I mean, do you have a number there, or something loose at least? Because it's a lot.
I mean, yeah, it has to have been at least 30, 40 groups that have been here. Now with the streams, we've done 78 of those.
Right.
I think 78 is, as of right now, what the YouTube channel is up to.
Yeah.
And but those are much different than like somebody that comes in and they record a project and we spend a massive time together. So and with a few repeats, but I mean there's at least 70 groups right there for that.
Gosh, that's absolutely insane. Now, how many of those out of those 70 groups do you think have actually become true clients, where you convert them into, I don't want to say convert, that sounds weird, but you actually start working on a proper project where you come in, you track, you do overdubs, you go through the mix process, and all the trials and tribulations surrounding actually working an album project?
Very respectable amount. Probably about maybe like 15, 20 of them have all come in, or we've done like something in some capacity.
Right.
Probably more than that, but the live streams ended up being a great way to. They among everything that we were trying to accomplish, it ended up being a great way for a band to come in and get a feel for my temperament.
Yeah.
And for me to also like get a feel for theirs.
Right.
And so it's like, there have been a handful of bands where it's like, man, we need to do this like more, you know, we need to do some more stuff together.
Yeah.
You know, which is great. I honestly don't think that was my intention when we started it, you
Right.
know, but I didn't think of it, but that ended up being a really healthy byproduct.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then, of course, everything that you learn with every live stream that you do,
Mm-hmm.
you know, just how the room feels, how the band feels, how to better approach miking things in a live environment or
Mm-hmm.
for live tracking in the studio. Like that also is invaluable, you know, just having that experience every single week,
Oh, 100%.
like working on your chops.
Absolutely. It changed everything about the way that I hear or approach music and
Yeah.
sound and everything. It was really important to us, you know, first off, like shout out to my friend Oscar Moreno,
Yeah.
and the rest of the staff. But when we first started, it was in conversations with me and Oscar Moreno.
Right.
And part of our vision for it was that it was really important to us that it was live, so that way, if we mess up, it's no different. Like instead of putting the band under a microscope, that all of us we're all functioning at
Right.
the right now. So
Right.
so that's why it's like the mixes are live. That's the master bus off the board.
Yeah.
The video is all done live. Any of the video switching, we're not able to really like go back and edit to different video cuts. And so the whole thing was supposed to be like a here and now.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know how that translates into the future, but at the time it feels really cool to do
Absolutely.
that. And so, yeah, I mean, you start to stumble on tricks that work, and it's like don't do this, or you know, you get really good at things like
Right.
aiming microphones and strategizing, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. Now, we're talking about the channel quite a bit. Excuse me. And so for those of you that are interested in Live from Studio E, of course, we have a link down below, so you should go and seek it out and listen to some of Brant's work, as well as album work that he's done, which you can find on Discogs, and make sure that you are following up with what we're doing here, which is, you know, trying to help you understand a little more of what the recording community is like and what it's like being a part of the whole process. So for those of you that have never been into a recording studio before, the days of old are long gone, and that is the days where, you know, a day in the studio might cost you $1,800 to $2,500 a day, and the studio employed you know, multiple engineers. You had an intern, you had a manager, studio tech, all kinds of people. That doesn't really exist anymore. It does in certain places in, you know, LA, Nashville. I'm trying to think if there's any places in San Francisco that operate like that. I don't think that there are. But anyhow, most studio owners today, it might be a 1 or 2 person operation. And that 1 or 2 people are responsible for doing everything. So me being an engineer like Brant, I wanted to ask Brant a few questions that apply to all of us. We're probably all going to answer them differently, but I want to know, you know, inquiring minds want to know. So, you know, when we're in the studio as engineers, when you're in the studio, you're not just technical, you know, dialing in sounds with your preamps and outboard compression and microphones and all that. You are also a concierge. Like, where can I eat? Where's the good food? Where are the local bars, right? Mm-hmm. Where can I get good weed? Because that's the truth, you know, it's a part of being in the studio. You're going to be a therapist. You know, you're going to have to like wrangle in emotions and egos, which to me is one of the hardest parts sometimes to deal with.
Right.
You also have to know how to make great coffee sometimes. Maybe we have Keurigs now and all that, but you know, there's a lot of different roles that, you know, we as engineers have to kind of take in when we're working on productions. Mm-hmm. And I want to know what you think the most important role is.
I think the most important thing is like beyond any kind of like hospitality is that as soon as someone walks into the room is to try and give them what they need to understand that it's at their disposal, and that they're supposed to, that I don't you know, no, I want you to stand, or no, I want you to sit, or
right.
all these weird arbitrary things that they might actually think that I have an opinion on, but I don't. Mm-hmm. So if in my periphery when I'm working with people and then I can see that like someone's just like not that comfortable.
Yeah.
Is to try and like you know, break the ice with them, or make sure they understand that you're here. You're not doing what I do. We are doing what you do.
Right.
So if you play, stand up and jump around, or you need some water, or you need like whatever it is you need to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And usually kind of like a camera coming into focus that you can tell when you've gotten there with them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But I feel like that's the biggest thing, because there's a stigma of going into the studio. It's like, and we're supposed to behave like this, and we're supposed to do this, and we're supposed to do that. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, I mean, if that's what you do,
Right.
Or, so I feel like that's the biggest part.
Right.
And yeah.
Yeah, and it is, in every sense of the term, this is a service industry.
Right.
You are providing a service to the talent, and that talent is to capture my performance in the best way possible.
Right. Right.
And so if they aren't comfortable with you, then you're going to have a problem right out of the gate.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah.
And I will have musicians that will ask me, well, where should I sit, or what should I do? And I'm like, you just get comfortable, and I'm going to work around you.
Right.
I'll figure out where the mics need to go, and you just do your thing. Like, I want you to be as comfortable as possible, because if you don't have that, you're not going to get a good performance.
Right, exactly. Right. I mean, most bands, when you say like, the therapist thing, and it's like that can come into play at times,
Yeah.
and I don't think I shy away from it,
Right.
But the reality is that, especially on the scale that I work on, where the band is not filled out with like hired guns.
Yeah.
These are friends.
Right.
And they get along together, and they've worked on music, and they have a sound that they make. Once you get everyone on the same page, once you get them relaxed and ready to make music, the band will take care of itself.
Right.
The band will pep talk itself, but you can tell when they start having fun, and when you start making sounds, and when that's good. And,
Yeah.
and sometimes for some bands it's not even an issue, and we just, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, but I feel like that's the biggest thing that I see a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And what about click tracks? I know for me personally, I've had bands come in and say, we're going to record a click track. And the first question out of my mouth every time is, have you done this before?
Right.
And when they say no, I'm like, don't try it. It's going to ruin your day.
Right.
How do you feel about that?
Well, personally, I feel like the click track is kind of filed under like it's a guideline, right? And it's kind of this external guideline that you set for yourself.
Right.
I personally, in music that I listen to or produce, I can take it or leave it.
Right.
I think there's a few benefits that come from tracking onto a click track, but there's also some benefits that come from not doing it, which is that the music breathes and stuff like that. I think that a band playing that way is an artistic choice. If you decide you want it to kind of wave, I think that's cool. But you are correct that when somebody says like, no, we're doing it for real, we're actually doing this to a click track, I could care less. That I don't think that there's any flattery involved with the fact that somebody recorded to a click.
Right.
And if somebody says like, oh, well, we're going to try it, and it's like, I'll let you try it. But if it's not working, like cut your losses and let's do it the way that you had intended. I've even had bands decide they want to use a click track, and honestly, they disappeared for 7 months and practiced with a click track and came back and played with a click track.
Right.
I don't think it was like 7 months nose to the grind, like, come on, we can do this. But
Right.
they took some time and re-examined their approach. You know? That's fine. If it makes them happy, that's cool.
Right.
I would have done that record without a click track and been completely fine with it.
Right. Yeah, it is nice to have more humanity
Yeah.
in the albums.
I think speeding up, slowing down, singing flat, and singing sharp.
Right.
These are all the things we try to remedy.
Yeah.
But the reality is that they're artistic decisions.
Sure.
If you want to sing that way, then do it.
Right.
It's your voice.
Right.
Yeah.
Talking about auto-tune Melodyne, and the use and or abuse of that, and to what you just said, if somebody's singing sharp or flat, that very well could be their signature. And I always think, and this is going to date me, obviously, but the Smiths, Morrissey is always super sharp, but those songs would not be the same if they were auto-tuned.
Right.
That's just him. Despite how you feel about Morrissey as a person, Let's remove that part of the equation because he's a weirdo. He's not a very nice guy these days.
I've never met him.
I've never met him, but you just look at the press and it's like, oh, come on, man, what are you doing? You're kind of destroying a little bit of my childhood. You know, from an artistic standpoint, his voice and the way that he used it and him being a little bit sharp all the time, that's him. You remove that, those records are going to be much different.
Right,
you
right.
know? Or different drummers. You know, some drummers push things a little bit harder or some drummers drag a little bit more. You remove that part of them or make them adhere to a click track, that becomes not them.
Right.
It's no longer their feel.
Right.
You know?
Some people, but for the record though, some people can. I've been alarmingly surprised by bands that were completely natural is shifting to a click, but it's not something that you would want to document your first attempt.
Right.
Which is what we're actually talking about, right? Is that
Yes.
like, well, now we're in the studio. Well, let's do it different than we've ever done it.
Right.
It's like, okay.
Not a good idea.
Yeah.
I've seen bands fall apart.
Yeah.
And I've told them gently, if you've never done this, let's not try it.
Yeah, right.
Because unfortunately, from my experience, there's a good chance that it's not going to go well and it's going to set or destroy the tone for the day. You're going to feel defeated right out of the gate. So let's not do it. Or like you said, let's reschedule. Go and practice with the click, you know, for a while and then come back and do it like that. But let's not try it. Let's just do your thing. And see what happens,
exactly.
you know, so.
Yeah.
So with all the tools that we have, I don't know what is actually in frame right now, but you know, in the studio we have all kinds of tools. We have different types of microphones, different types of polar patterns. We have pop filters, we have compressors, EQs, all kinds of things that we can employ during the process. Different types of cables, different gauges or impedances, you name it. Out of all the tools that all of us have as engineers, what is the most important tool in your toolbox? Feels weird saying that. It's the most important tool in your toolbox.
Oh, like the one that you just like.
You got to have it. Like you can't live without it.
Oh,
you will take it with you.
There's one tool here that I love because you prepped me for this question, and what's so funny is that of all of them, the way that I read it on the page was like just like what's your favorite. You know, not so much, but like Desert Island, if I went to go work in a studio much nicer than my own, which piece would I be like, I'm taking this, we're using this?
Anything, yeah.
Yeah. I have an old like 1981 Boss DM100.
Okay.
It's a Bucket Brigade delay.
Oh, yeah.
That predates, I believe, and I'm not massively researched on it, but it predates the delay pedal. Mm-hmm. And so it's this big unit, you know, kind of like an old reverb tank that would sit on top of the amp.
Yeah.
But I hooked that up. I bought one, and I've had it hooked up, and it just lives on a channel on the board.
Right.
That is my default vocal ambience. That is it's like I will experiment with that thing in any way to get more out of an instrument, and yeah, I love it. I love the sound of it. It's completely grimy, dirty.
Yeah.
But if you watch any of the YouTube performances, if there's a slapback on the voice, I guarantee you it's that Boss pedal.
Right.
And it became the path of least resistance to getting a little ambience on something and not muddying up a whole mix, and just a really cool way to do it. It's like, I mean, I'll pump sound into it until it clips. That's the step one of the recipe. Is clip it really hard.
Okay.
And it darkens it up, and it always just sits in the perfect way. I cannot reproduce this with any plugin I've ever come across.
Right.
I've tried no less than 30, 40,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like, nope, I guess it's just this box, you know. Who knows if I even got another one of the same unit. Maybe just that unit. I have no idea. I have no idea. It's a 40-plus-year-old Bucket Brigade chip.
Yeah.
I have no idea what is accounted for, you know, that it's supposed to do.
Oh, there's so much magic in all kinds of old circuits.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of just finding what that magic is, or if it's applicable to everything, which in this case it kind of is. It sounds like you use it on pretty much every session.
Yeah, and I mean, even if it doesn't make it on the session, definitely a vocalist is recording, and you never want to hear your own voice in headphones. It's just like bone dry.
Yeah, it's weird.
And so that just seems to be, it's like, that's stage one. That's the first thing I try.
Yeah.
If it's not it, I'm not going to get upset but I will try it first.
Right.
Yeah.
Very good. Now, I know that you use interns, or you have in the past.
I have, yeah.
Now, are you getting these interns from local colleges, schools, universities, or are you just, finding people through like word of mouth, or, how is that happening? And is there anything that you do to prep the interns before they come in here for the very first time?
Well, I don't know that I've had, since I've been here, I think the number is like 3 or 4.
Okay. Yeah.
2 of them have been from the program, music business, or doing something at San Antonio College.
Okay.
I have a new one that's going to start this
Okay.
this next semester, and I don't really do too much to prep them, except that just to say like, hey, don't like weigh in on stuff. If you're an intern, it's like your gig is to read the room and help like kind of facilitate needs.
Right.
And really, it's like it's so weird. This is such a weird field that if somebody is recording and they're like, I don't like this sound. I don't like the sound that I'm getting. I'm going to go back there right now. I'm going to talk to Brant and I'm going to tell him I don't like the sound, which is something that I want to hear.
Yeah.
But the last thing you want is an intern meeting them halfway when they're on their way going, dude, it sounds so good.
Right.
Even the compliment can set the personality of the thing back. So it's
Right.
it's just like, maintain neutrality. Don't be a distraction.
Yeah.
You're really just there to take stock in what's going on and apply it to your own sessions.
Right.
Whatever it is you end up running.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But I think that's the biggest thing, and it's like you see that someone's trying to lift something and it's a mess. If you're able-bodied, like go give them a hand. If you
Right.
see that someone's thirsty, offer them a water. If
Yeah.
you see that, but for the most part, right? It's like this is your chance to be a fly on the wall
Right.
with zero responsibility of the product outcome.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just sit back and take notes and do that because. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a fully immersive educational process, if
Right.
you will,
Right.
or opportunity.
Right.
Yeah.
And you just see it happen and you leave it with either like, so that's what you do, or you leave it with like, so note to self, never do that.
Right.
Because I'll be up in front of you and it's like, if there's a landmine, like let me be the one that steps in it.
Sure, absolutely.
It's no pressure off of your
Right.
Reputation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I should say too that I am a byproduct of a much different experience.
Yeah.
And I myself did not intern anywhere.
Right.
So it's not like I can actually show someone how to be a glowing intern.
Right.
It's like I'll run the studio and then when I get an intern, I'm like, come on, we'll figure this out together.
Right.
Because I don't know where I need you. I don't know what your job is.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, this is actually probably a good segue into my next question, which actually has to do with formal education and your thoughts on audio programs, whether it be at a university or a trade school. Like, how do you feel about that? And be completely open and candid about it.
Well, I feel like for anybody to study this and do it, it's got to be on par with a pretty intense like science degree.
Yeah.
With the amount of detail that goes into it, the amount you can learn.
Right.
The only thing that I like harbor against like a professional setting or a collegiate setting for music is that that's a lot of student loan. That's
Right.
a lot of student loan in a profession that may never help you recoup.
Yeah.
Because I've known a lot of people that have attended programs.
Yeah.
And come to find out 10 years later, they all make great realtors.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not all of them. I know some people that are doing great.
Right.
But the law of averages, and what it's like dictated
Yeah.
is that it's really risky, and that's the only thing. Beyond that, there's no such thing as a bad education, right?
Right.
Like somebody showed me how to do this.
Right.
Awesome.
Right.
But you do have to, we are at a point right now in music where you do have to weigh things like Like you're gonna spend money on gear, you're gonna spend money on the overhead, just the real estate.
Yeah.
You know, you're gonna spend money getting there, you're gonna spend money feeding yourself, you're gonna spend all this money, and it's like, do you really want to start that with $150,000
Right.
deficit? When, especially in this day and age, which I came up just right before it,
Yeah.
where you can YouTube anything. Now you might have to sift through some wrong answers, and it's up to you to discern or
Yeah.
trial and error it. But that there's so much information, even to the advanced sciences,
Right.
you know, that you can do it. But so I guess like I would say is like that there's some warning signs of like investing in a formal education.
Right.
But it might be a great thing for you, or it just might not be what you need. You
Right.
know.
Right.
You have to feel it out.
Right.
For sure. Obviously I did a music performance. So obviously I didn't study recording, but I got just as useless a degree. You know, but I loved it. I love the education that I got. It's fine.
Right.
You know.
And I think it's very obviously subjective in that everybody's going to take their education, whatever it happens to be in,
Right.
as far as they want to take it, or as far as they care to take it.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So, you know, to your point, I have known people that have gotten degrees from major Ivy League universities that have not gone on to pursue what their degree path was.
Right,
You know?
right.
They've done something completely different because they discovered that they didn't love what they studied or whatever it may be. But yeah, in this field, if you're walking out with $120,000, $150,000 worth of debt right out of the gate, that's going to be that's a very, very difficult hole to climb out of.
Right. And it's like, why make that the starting point?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But if it's for you, or, you know, some people are like, their families make them go to college. I don't care what you're studying, just go get a degree.
Right.
Oh, by all means, if that's your situation,
yeah.
go do that. And there's some great people in academia too. Like, I mean, I'm sure that there's some, I liked talking when I was at Texas State. I loved any chance I got to converse with the people that did the sound recording program.
Right.
And pick their brain and talk to them about stuff. And,
Yeah.
and they were all so gracious.
Right.
Had I been in the program and we would have clocked more time together, that would have been cool. I was in the other one. But, you know, they're great people. It's not, they didn't rob anybody. They didn't beat anyone up. They didn't tell, you know what I mean?
Right.
They didn't give anyone bad advice. Now,
Yeah,
here's how you make this sound good. That's not true at all, you know?
Right.
They're trying to swindle anybody.
Right,
you know?
right.
Yeah. So I'm sure those are great relationships, too, for a lot of people. But
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I actually have taught in the for-profit world, universe, as well as in a university. They were very different experiences. That's all I'm going to say. But very, very different, you know, from the political standpoint to the relationship that I have with students. Just a very, very different approach.
Right.
And honestly, I like the technical trade school approach a lot better.
Okay.
It was way more rewarding. We had better gear. It was just a better experience.
Yeah,
all
yeah,
around,
yeah.
honestly. And
Yeah.
the politics were a lot easier to deal with.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, university was just like, oh my God, we're all trying to do the same thing. I understand we're all fighting for the same pot of money, but please, like, let's just try to work together.
Right, that pot of money is shrinking.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So, you know, it's not going to get any
Right.
easier there.
Right.
You know.
So I do have a couple more questions for you, but before we do that, we're going to have a quick demo with Cooper. We're going to listen to 3 guitars, a handful of microphones, different positionings on the microphones, and let you have a better idea of how mic placement, type of microphone is going to affect the sound of an acoustic guitar, as well as the size of the acoustic guitar and how it's going to interact with the microphone. So there's a couple of different things happening here. And after this demo, we're going to come back with, like I said, a couple more questions, and we're going to close this out. So I, I really hate to do this to you, but I have a couple more questions for you. And this is a two-parter. Question number one is, what do you think is your greatest strength in the studio?
I think my greatest strength in the studio is just that I'm a music lover.
Yeah.
I think that if you whatever we're doing with music is like you have to hear it, and you have to be able to discern, was this effective or not? You know what I mean? Did it take me to the place that I wanted it to take me? If somebody's paying you to do it, it's like, well, and if they're well spoken enough, did it take you to a place that they wanted
Right.
it to take you?
Right.
You know. Yeah, always forever. It's my love of music, and especially when you look at stuff now, where the technology landscape is thoroughly homogenized.
Yeah.
So everyone is at home beating themselves over the head with the same stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we all have the same technology. We all have all this. You know, the only thing that we have to offer the field anymore is what we like and what we are.
Right.
And you know, it shows you show a lot of your humanity in the music you produce, the music you write.
Right.
There's no way out of it. You know what I mean? To
Yeah,
say
yeah.
this wasn't artistic. So I always think that I always think and I always hope that the best part of myself is like my humanity that listens to the song and the love of music that might carry the song through to what I feel like it could be,
Right.
or do.
Right.
And I think that's it. And I think that's probably the best part about anyone in the studio.
Sure.
You know, musician or otherwise.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, how your love of music can serve song X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, exactly. And just like is like you someone that gets chills on that part.
Yeah.
Does this song make you cry? And
Yeah.
and I feel like I'm the kind of person where when I'm around people that are less affected, and I'm like, don't look at me, I'm hideous, you know.
Right.
Because I'm like going through a thing, and that's it. Is just that I chose to spend my life in the field that would most likely like give me that feeling.
Yeah.
You know, and I have it from people who have like played songs in here, and I'm just like, I can't believe that we're making this
Right.
for you.
Yeah,
You
it's a
know,
cool
this
feeling.
is so beautiful, and that's where my job satisfaction comes from, and
Right.
that's where their satisfaction is like, I love what you did to this comes from.
Right.
You know, so it's that's the pathway to all compliments or all the good things about it. You know,
Right, right.
And what would keep you here doing it?
Okay. So then the other side of this question is, what is your greatest weakness? And that's very loaded, I think, on many levels. But you know, it might also be the catalyst to have you focus on that a little more. Because I know what my weaknesses are, and I focus on them all the time. That's why I'm asking this.
Nice. I'm glad you know that, by the way. That's awesome. I think the one thing that bothers me, or that I feel is my weakness, is that I'm not as well traveled as I wish that I was.
Okay.
Like I wish that I had seen like you know, I was like working at this studio in Brooklyn where I interned, you know, or like
Right.
or I did this or I did that, and I'm not as traveled. That, and I have some friends that have always had this kind of make lemonade outlook on that are always like, yeah, but it's so weird that it's like, you know, when you're here, I'm not just like, and then we do this, you know, like
Right.
you do at studios that I've never been to.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know if it comes off as a strength, but it will always wear on my psyche that I always wonder if I'm doing it right.
Right.
Or I always wonder like how many tricks that could, you know, shorten the time I spent on something, or how many things I don't know.
Right.
You know, so I think it might be that.
Okay.
I think it might be that.
Gotcha. Fair enough. It's a weird question, isn't it?
It's like anything, you know. Audio is a strange thing,
Yeah.
and especially with the popularity of the term like gaslighting.
Yeah.
You can gaslight yourself
Right.
in audio.
Oh, absolutely.
So you can absolutely lose your mind, and then realize that it's like nice microphones, nice gear, you know, nice guitars are there. they're all great.
Yeah.
But you can still go psycho with
Sure.
you can drive yourself insane.
Right.
With it, or just convince yourself that you're way off the target, or wake up one day having like handsome day and like, well, I'm knocking this out of the park, and it's
Right.
like, well, maybe you are, maybe you aren't.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
10 years will tell.
Right. Right.
You know.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's funny that you talking about the gear right now, you know, in regards to this question that kind of brings everything around full circle when we were talking about the first question I asked you on the psychology, being in the studio, being a therapist, and, you know, trying to make sure they're having a great day, that they're comfortable. If the musician is comfortable, then you're going to capture a great performance. And I'd rather have a great performance on mediocre equipment or whatever, and I'm probably not articulating this properly, right? But I'd rather have a really, really great performance, and the recording can be like, meh, than a really, really crappy performance on $1 million worth of gear. At that point, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Doesn't mean anything. You have a crappy performance, and maybe the fidelity's there, but who cares? Nobody wants to hear that.
You know, the saying that I keep saying to myself is, bad records are made in nice studios every day.
Absolutely.
And if you have one at your disposal, then more power to you. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But it's not in my budget to provide one.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like I'll inch there and I'll get whatever I think I should get. But and also that's a lot of what I try to pass off to the clients.
Right.
Is that it's like, man, you're a human being. You're a composite of trillions of experiences.
Right.
Have come in and they've formed you, and you have put these words to a melody, to a chord progression. It's all just in the music composition alone. There's enough variables, but then just in yourself, and it's like once we stop believing that in its own, he is no longer like a beautiful thing. That's like enough. So let's document that, and let's be super careful.
Yeah.
And let's put it on this thing for other people to take part in that.
Right.
And that's the communication music, you know, our heartbeats sync up over this stuff, you know?
Absolutely.
And we have a biological connection through it. So let's take you, but it is hard to explain to somebody because they're playing in a local band. I know I'm not a big fish, and it's like, yeah, but we're all big fish, and that's what it's about, is that when you're making your music, you know, that you're doing that. This is you. This is important. What you are is important.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Right.
And not have too much shame.
Yes.
On the imperfections. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? And you were beautiful. And let's do it.
Yeah.
To a click track. No.
Unless.
Right.
No, the imperfections are so very important.
Yeah.
I'm tired of things being Pro Tooled to death.
Right.
It doesn't feel right.
Yeah, it's the you know, I like auto-tune, right? It's such an interesting thing. And one of my friends, it's actually Bobby Rivas from Honey Bunny, and which I love that band. And he was talking about auto-tune and how it didn't help Bridget's voice.
Right.
Right. And it's like, because just to me, but it's like, because she's a great singer.
Yeah.
And she says like, and then this is the note, but because she's good, she's like, but not yet. And she'll make you wait for it. And then she will achieve the note when she's ready to let you have it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's that kind of thing. These are real small decisions. They happen super fast. But auto-tune sifts it like mail.
Yeah.
Nope, yep. And it's like, nope, it's right here and now. And how you lose that, like the swell into a note, is a wonderful thing that we have control over with our voices. You know, you can't do that on piano.
Right.
You can't, well, you kind of can on a fretted guitar.
Yeah.
There's limitations, but that's the ultimate thing about the voice.
Right.
Is like, it's this note. Well, it will be in a second. Let me like swell into it.
Oh, yeah. It is the hardest instrument to capture.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, and you know, I think a certain amount of standing back, let people do what they do. Obviously, some people do need assistance, and obviously, you know, their shortcomings or time that somebody came in and did something, and now that person is gone, and they're on the West Coast now, and we need to work with what we've got, and so you have these tools, but to reach into them as a default tool bag, is kind of it can be sort of a slap in the face of everything that this music could be.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
It goes back to the Smiths and Morrissey.
Yeah.
Can't auto-tune that.
Can't
It's
do
going to
it.
take away the feeling.
We see that video where somebody tries to on Robert Plant.
Right.
And they try to auto-tune like Led Zeppelin just to see like how bad it would be, and it's
Yeah.
like it's not right. That's not cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, I think we've come to the end. So I want to thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Please remember, he is on YouTube, Brant Sankey, Studio E. The link is down below. Check out what they're doing, or check out what he's doing, and the bands. It's all about the community, and he's doing such a fantastic job in helping to build this community and to hold the torch and be the champion for the independent music scene in San Antonio. So I applaud you for that, because I've always been very opinionated about that, and everybody knows that. But I'm glad that you're doing it, and I'm seeing great things, and the studio's doing great things, and so you're providing a great service to San Antonio.
Thank you so much.
San Antonio is very lucky.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
A compliment I hope to earn.
And that's it. We're done. Thank you for sticking around. And we're Alma Music Center in San Antonio, Texas, and we will see you again, hopefully with more content like this. So, yeah, thanks. Bye.